Thank you. That concludes the debate on supporting households with cost of living pressures and rising energy bills. It's now time to move on to the next item of business, which is consideration of motion 16749 on appointment of chair to Environmental Standards Scotland. And I call on Gillian Martin, Cabinet Secretary, to speak to and move the motion.
I move the motion in my name, and if you give me 2 seconds, I'll bring up my notes, because I got a little bit distracted, presiding officer. So, the UK withdrawal from the European Union Continuity Scotland Act 2021 requires members, including chairs of the Board of Environmental Standards Scotland, or ESS, to be approved by the Scottish Parliament. This motion seeks the Parliament's approval of Dr Richard Dixon as the nominated candidate for the role of the Board Chair of ESS, as approved unanimously by the Net Zero Energy and Transport Committee at its meeting on the 18th of February 2025. As an existing member of the ESS Board, a motion was passed on the 30th of January 2025, which approved Dr Dixon's reappointment as a member for a further 3 years, an ordinary member. However, in the light of the outcome of the chair appointment process, which has now overtaken the reappointment process, the Scottish Government has not progressed Dr Dixon's reappointment simply as a member of the ESS Board, and instead intend to appoint Dr Dixon as its chair. For the sake of clarity, the Scottish Minister's position is that the process for appointing the chair is separate to that for reappointing members, in line with the Code of Practice for Ministerial Appointments to Public Bodies in Scotland. Further to this, and for the avoidance of doubt, the duration of the post of chair was publicly advertised as being 4 years in duration, which is why there is a difference in timeframes between the motions in January and today. In short, presiding officer, the appointment process for the chair has overtaken the previous member reappointment process, and I therefore move the motion to appoint Dr Richard Dixon as Chair of Environmental Standards Scotland for a period of 4 years, in accordance with Schedule 1, Paragraph 2, Subsection 4 of the UK Withdrawal from the European Union Continuity Scotland Act 2021.
Thank you. And I call on Douglas Lumsden.
Thank you, President Officer, and I wish to thank the Cabinet Secretary for her comments there that cleared up some of the points I was going to raise, because I do feel there's some confusion on this matter. Because as I understand the timeline with regards Mr Dixon's involvement with Environmental Standards Scotland, he was first appointed to the board in December 2020. He was then reappointed to the board in November 2024. And in January 2024, he was appointed as interim chair, and today we're being asked to confirm his appointment as chair for a further 4 years, which will take us to 2029, unless I'm mistaken. Therefore, he's been appointed reappointed once, and changed roles twice within that time. And in the Environmental Standards Scotland Framework document, paragraph 4.3, it states that ministers may reappoint on one occasion only, and I think that's maybe been addressed by the Cabinet Secretary. Because I was thinking surely this would be a second reappointment of this individual and would be contrary to the rules established by this document. Secondly, paragraph 4.3 goes on, members may thus serve a total of 2 consecutive terms, and their total period of appointment may not exceed 8 years. If Mr Dixon was first appointed in 2020, and this secondary appointment will take us to 2029, then that would be about 8.5–9 years, and therefore once again contravenes the rules set out in the framework document. At committee, I was willing to put aside Mr Dixon's sympathies towards Just Stop Oil and his stance against nuclear power, but these rules were put in place for a purpose. They are there to ensure that the work of the ESS remains independent and above reproach. Its reputation is essential to ensure that public bodies recognise its authority, and this SNP proposal drives a coach and horses through that relationship. Given the fact that this motion breaks the very rules that the Parliament has agreed, I find it impossible for us to support, and would suggest to colleagues that the Government needs to look at this again, this appointment again, and put forward a new timeline for the candidate.
Thank you. And I call on the Cabinet Secretary to respond.
Yes, I mean, I think that Douglas Lumsden has he said that largely his questions were answered by my statement. So I'm a bit concerned about the fact that he's not going to support them now, because there was a motion passed in Parliament in relation to the reappointment of Dr Richard Dixon as an existing member of the board for 3 years, but this is a completely separate appointment of him as chair for 4 years, so it is entirely in line with the Code of Practice and ministerial appointments to public bodies. Members should be informed of reappointment decisions 13 weeks in advance. Terms come to an end, hence why this process overlapped with the chair appointment process. And to note, the period of a 3-year reappointment term is based on a recommendation from the body in line with succession planning arrangements as required by the... I will.
Douglas Lumsden.
I thank the Cabinet Secretary for giving way. Could you confirm that what the total length of appointment would be from Mr Dixon starting on the board to when he's due to finish, according to this motion today?
Cabinet Secretary.
As I said, there were no issues with the length of the appointment of Dr Dixon as chair, given that he has served for a period as an ordinary member. That is not something that is an issue, and it's completely in accordance with the Code of Practice.
Thank you. The question on this motion will be put at decision time, and there are 4 questions to be put as a result of today's business. And can I remind members that the duration of each vote is changing from 45 to 30 seconds. And the first question is that Amendment 16750.3 in the name of Liz Smith, which seeks to amend Motion 16750 in the name of Shirley-Ann Somerville on supporting households with cost of living pressures and rising energy bills be agreed. Are we all agreed? The Parliament is not agreed, therefore we'll move to a vote, and there will be a short suspension to allow members to access the digital voting system.